Everybody. We are just going to wait a few minutes for everybody to log on and join us. And as we're waiting, I'm just going to show you guys a 2-minute video, just kind of get you in the mood, take you to Okinawa, and have a little mini vacation as we wait for everybody to come in. So let me try to share this with you guys. Here we go. Oops, actually, I need to make sure that the sound is on. Share sound. Oh, all right. Oops. All right. Okay. All right. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that little video, and let's jump into it. All right, so my name is Ida Vong, and I am a sake specialist here at Sake School of America, and I also work for a mutual trading company. And welcome to Awamori Sunrise. So just to give you an overview about what we're going to be doing today, let me quickly introduce the co-founder and our lead instructor of Sake School of America, Mr. Toshio Ueno. So Ueno-san. And if nobody's in the gallery view, I don't think they'd be able to see you. Did you want to unmute and say hi really quick?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Awamori Sunrise. We have a great guest from Atlanta, Georgia, Kellie Thorn. I'm going to introduce her later, but she's going to say hi now. All right.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Kellie. She's a mile away from her unmute and mute button, so you'll see her face a little bit later on. But for now, I'm going to go over the timeline. So Ueno-san is going to introduce Kellie a little bit more in depth after this. And then he is going to do an introduction to Okinawan Awamori. So kind of like Awamori 101. We will also have the Awamori and food pairing presentation by Kellie. So that's when you get to see her beautiful face, as well as her amazing food pairings and cocktails that she has lined up for us. And as we go along, we'll try to answer as many questions as possible, but we also will have a Q&A towards the end if there are any burning questions you might have, as well as any more webinars that we have planned for you or any other events as well as promotional information. So if you want to get shochu and awamori, we'll be able to tell you where to get that. And at the very end, we'll have a quiz. You have a chance to win the Shochu Advisor course for free from Sake School of America. It'll be a quick, I believe, like 3-question quiz. So be sure to take notes and follow along. All right, take it away, Ueno-san.
Hi, everyone. So I'm going to be having this session and starting with introducing Kellie Thorn. She's our final guest, and she has been in the restaurant industry for nearly 20 years and bartending for the last 17. And in 2013, Kellie became the beverage director of Hugh Action Restaurant, and she has served on the advisory council for Atlanta Food and Wine help to organize annual charity events for Wholesome Wave Georgia and Community Farmers Market, and is currently serving on the grants committee for the Table of the Cocktail Foundation, as many of you knows. And in 2017, she was awarded the Rue des Escoffier. I don't know, I don't speak French, so I don't know how to pronounce them, and the Escoffier Legacy Award. And in 2018, she was named one of the wine enthusiasts 40 under 40 tastemakers. Isn't that great? So she's going to be making cocktails. She's going to be introducing her dish with that pairing with those cocktail, and looking forward to that. All right, let's start with Awamori's session. So many of you know where Japan is. Japan is located like here, and I should have a pointer. There's a pointer. So Japan is like here next to the China and Korea. Climate is temperate climate. However, it is greatly affected by continental weather of China. So the wind, especially in the winter time, it's very, very get cold because the wind from Russia to China to here. But the place we're going to be talking gonna be the southern part of Japan. So it's a subtropical weather, very warm, and it's almost like Hawaii. And the land mass is about this big, which is from New York to Indiana, the lengthwise stretch out. And it has 160 islands. Wow, I didn't know that. And it's beautiful ocean country, as you can see this in this the photos. And also in the mountain inland is beautiful also. It almost like reminds me of Hawaii, exactly, right? And it has a, Okinawa had once existed as a Ryukyu kingdom from between 15th century to 19th century. And so their culture is very, very different from Japan. And he was the first king Shoen. And also they had a, really unique trade because remember that Japan was closed their door for long years, like 200 years, they closed the door. But American came and opened the door. But before that, Kyushu was the only place, especially Okinawa was the place, they had all the trade for the other countries. So that's the reason why the awamori, as we will study that, has to be made with the Thai rice, correct? So the culture, and they don't look like me. They look like more Polynesian. It looks like a Thai people too. Oh, and as I mentioned, they have a really, really unique culture, like this lace and dye textile. This is, we don't see this in mainland. Karate in Japan, Japanese karate is actually coming from, originating in Okinawa, okay? And Aisa dance is very unique. And also this sanshin looks like a string guitar, but it's, we have this one, shamisen, in mainland, but this is different, okay? Very, very distinct culture developed there. Even Japan itself is, because of that we closed the door for a long time, we have very, very unique culture, but Okinawa is more distinct. Okay, in the 15th century, liquor has brought through trade like this, and many of them before we start distilling ourselves. Okay. And Awamori has been brewed from 16th century in Okinawa. And how they make them? So this is a Thai rice, soaked it, and you have to steam it. And when you steam it, the rice inside has aminopectin, amylose, and it's going to have absorb the water, and it's going to be gelatinized. When it is gelatinized, a microbe we call the fungi, national fungi, black koji, can survive, and they can germinate or inoculate itself onto the rice, and it looks like this. This is a the box has a lot of rice with already spores coming out like that under the microscope. It looks like this, and that's koji. Koji is a microbe. Or even sake is made with koji, right? And miso is made with koji. Soy sauce is made from koji. Japanese rice vinegar is made from koji. But those miso, soy sauce, and sake is made with yellow koji. But for Awamori, it's black koji. A difference is a little bit different of this enzyme activity, making saccharification and converting starch to sugar and protein to amino acid. And how they make them? They used to have this kind of small box or different room. That's the traditional koji making. But if you go to bigger facility, you have this spiral conveyor belts type of the koji making, or this is a small to mid-size drum can type rotating ones. Yeah, and I was gonna say this before comparing it to yellow koji. Black koji produce more citric acid. So in sake making, usually you need a lactic acid at the beginning because you want to protect the yeast from bacteria. But the reason why is acidity higher the acid, bacteria cannot survive. Yeast can survive, but bacteria cannot survive. That's why you need acid level high. For wine, wine grape itself has a high acid, so you don't need anything. But for sake and for shochu Awamori, we need to put something acidic in the product, or the koji producing high acid. Okay, black koji is producing a lot of citric acid. Okay, and looks like this. And when you put with the water and yeast and koji together and steam rice, no, steam rice is not mixed because Awamori is only one fermentation, different from other spirit. Shochu you add twice, but for Awamori it's all koji. You don't add any steam rice. It's all steam rice into the tank with water and yeast. Okay, and produce CO2, alcohol, and heat. And also, it will produce this isomer acetate or hydrocarbonate. Many of you who are sake fans, this fruity aroma is coming from there. And these are reaction between fatty acid and alcohol and produce this, okay? And it's going to be distilled. And many of the Awamori makers use this type of, and not all of them, but many of them. It has a shorter neck. That means there is less condensation. So there will be a more heavier compounds going to go through, and more richer and rounded, complex flavor is going to be out. Let's compare that with other ones. We are talking about, there's two distillations in pot still distillation in Japan. One is regular distillation, and the other one is vacuum. But most of the Awamori is made with regular ones. So these yellow ones and also blue ones are not bad. It's because they are easy to evaporate. Lighter alcohols goes in. And if it doesn't have so much condensation here, this red one goes in distillates too. So gives you more complex, a little bit more heavier oiliness too, from the components generated by heating. Okay. For vacuum ones, you get more lighter, cleaner, more simpler distillation. So you get more fruitier notes. Okay. And then, many esters coming out, some compounds are coming out, smells like vanilla, smells like mushroom, smells like banana. And then the unique thing about Awamori, not all of them, but some of them are aged, especially when it is in family consumer side. Every family has this, pot, a clay pot, and they age them for a long time. It used to have 200 years to 300 years aged Awamori before the war, but I think that the oldest one right now is after the war, so 40 years, 50 years is the oldest one. And the way they do is exactly the same as a Solera system, Sherry. So you have the oldest one, so you take out from this one and you have to add the new ones to next, okay? And then you age them, you get this vanilla smells and flavor is very nice. And also this, you get the caramelized, maple syrup, or some of them are taste like, honey, and those one comes out. And also black koji produce a lot of this mushroom smell, octanol compounds, and smells like mushrooms, okay? And some oiliness, I think Awamori is especially unique because of how they distill them and how they ferment them. So you get a little bit of more mouthfeel, like here. Oiliness is, where is oiliness? Oh, here. Caramel, this is not oiliness, this is caramelized oiliness is right here. Viscosity and oiliness is coming from those compounds. And then you have, floral, fruity, grassy, cereal, and Awamori has a lot of cereal character too, and with mushroom. And then if you have an aged one, you have caramelized vanilla, and also toasty soy sauce and dry fruits flavors too. So Kelly-san's gonna incorporate that into her cocktail, and she's gonna talk about her chosen dish with Awamori. These are the Awamori we've been using, and she's gonna have a marinated anchovies with grapefruit, celery, and olive oil with Hanashimauta. That's pairing 1. And pairing 2 is boiled peanuts hummus served with crackers and kudai with Mizuho. And number 3 is going to be a daze stuffed with cashew cheddar, drilled with pomegranate molasses with Sakura Yamakawa by itself. Okay, so this is the first one. Here's a recipe. If you want to have this recipe, let us know so we can send them. So she's gonna have this. Thank you for this beautiful picture too, Kelly-san. Okay, I will take it away to Kelly-san.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Ueno and Ada. I'm so excited to be here, and thank you everyone for joining us this evening. At the beginning of 2020, I was fortunate enough to visit Japan and Okinawa with some of my fellow WSET educators. I'm an educator for the WSET in addition to being the beverage director for Chef Hugh Atchison here in Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm sure, like anyone who's ever had the fortunate experience of visiting Japan and Okinawa, I was completely enamored by the landscape, by the people, and by the spirit that comes from that area. And when we would go out and have drinks with people, I quickly realized that there were a few things that I really loved and related to immediately. I am a big fan of low ABV drinks and a big fan of cultures that involve a lot of food and drinking in their gatherings together. And that's really any culture that has drinking, right? But I immediately kind of related it to European drinking culture and also Southern drinking culture, right? Where we gather into big groups a little bit earlier in the day, sometimes lower ABV drinks over lots of food together in large gatherings. It's very kind of, like I said, that European style and that Southern style. So when I started thinking about what I wanted to do for you guys today, pre-pandemic, one of my favorite things to do was to entertain in my home and to have lots of friends over and make them drinks and make them snacks. I think this is part of the reason that I became a bartender in the first place, is because I genuinely love entertaining and feeding people and giving people drinks. So I wanted to combine all of these things that I love, which is Southern ingredients, mixed with kind of European influences. This is something that my boss, Hugh Atchison, does. And then obviously pair it with the beautiful spirit from Okinawa, that it was Awamori, which isn't hard to do. The great thing about it is all of this was pretty seamless and easy to do. And it fits really well together. So from the southern shores of Okinawa to the south in Atlanta, Georgia, I'm gonna make a few drinks and a few snacks for you guys this evening. So the first thing I'm gonna do is mix up with the Hanashimauta. And so as Ueno-san mentioned, there's two main styles of distillation in Awamori. The more common is atmospheric, but vacuum distillation does occur, and this one is actually distilled under a vacuum. So what we have here is a pretty, there's a lot of delicate notes here. There's a lot of floral notes and herbal notes. And when I started thinking about what I wanted to do with that, and one of my favorite drinks of all time is a martini and every riff around it. So I love Gibson's. And I wanted to kind of highlight those herbal and floral notes and just really let them shine in the form of a low ABV Gibson, which is even better because then you can have more. So we're going to do 2 ounces of Awamori. And then 1 ounce of Blanc Vermouth. And I'm using a Blanc Vermouth from the Cognac region that has a lot of kind of herbal notes itself, but any Blanc Vermouth that you wanted to use would work just fine. I like the Blanc Vermouth in a Gibson because it just adds a little additional richness. And then a Gibson is essentially a martini, but with an onion. And I like to, this is kind of a trick of my good friend in New York, Megan Dorman, to use a little bit of the brine, or in her case, pickled onion juice from the onions in the cocktail, just to kind of bolster that. It gives it this nice little like salty character, which helps some of those other herbal and floral characters really pop out. And then my friends in California sent me this beautiful ice. I'll just put this here for a second. Stir up with this. Now I've had my cocktail glass in the freezer, so I'm trying to work with like as many cold ingredients as possible. You know what? My tongs aren't doing it for me right now. I'm not entertaining other people, so I'm gonna use my fingers to grab this ice. I promise I don't do that at the bar. Excellent. And then I'm just gonna stir this up, and I'm just trying to get, I wanna add some dilution. I really just want everything to get cold. So because I don't need to over dilute here or add too much dilution because we're dealing with a lower alcohol based spirit, I recommend having your mixing glass really cold, or if you decide to use a pint glass and your actual drinking vessel pretty cold, so you don't have to go for too long. I'm going to grab one more onion and just drop it right down there in the bottom. I'm strain it into my glass straight up. And then I've got this little lemon peel. I'm just going to take the skin part, which has all the oils in it, and I'm just going to express it right over the top of the drink. And then curl it over. So let's see here, get it a little closer. And you have your Awamori Gibson. Now I paired this because it is so light. I wanted to pair it with a little bit of fish, and I love boquerones. So I did really nice like marinated anchovies, and then there's like some grapefruit supremes that are from the southern part of Georgia, so just a few hours away, and then some thinly shaved Georgia celery and a little olive oil, and then some sea salt over the top. So it's just a nice little light bite paired with a really delicate light cocktail.
That looks amazing. And
Thank
you know, it looks amazing, and it's not anything too complicated. You know, it looks like you put a lot of effort into it, but you know, it's easy to make at home.
That is my favorite thing to do, to make it look like I put way more work in than I actually do. So when you come over, you're like, wow, but I haven't like done myself. I mean, and this is the great thing about using great ingredients and great spirits, is that you don't have to overcomplicate anything that you're doing, and you can come up with something really lovely. And this would work with, you know, if you wanted to just do like a crudo, or anything along those lines, you could also do that. But this is also, but that's a little more work. So this is a little less work than that.
Awesome. And why, like, I think this is actually a great pairing, because you also decided to do a kind of like savory cocktail in a sense with the fish. And so the kind of savoriness and oils pair well together. So
that's right. There's a little salt in the cocktail that complements some of the like salt and savory notes there. And then the citrus, the really pretty bright citrus, play well with those like kind of more floral notes. And then the celery and the herbal notes in the shochu, I mean in the awamori, all just kind of play off of each other. So it's definitely something that you can, I think you could just sip and it'll be really nice. But if you wanted to contemplate it more, then you could certainly do that and find a lot of layers in there.
Awesome. All right, so let's move on to the second pairing. And also Mark Goldberg says your fingernails match the label of the Hanashimauta.
Oh, thank you for noticing. They're actually going to change throughout the entire presentation. I wish. Awesome. Yeah, so the next one that I'm doing is it's a highball. It's actually kind of more of a Collins for all of my bartending like professionals. Are going to be like, that's not actually a highball, Kelly, because you're shaking up citrus and all kinds of other stuff in there. So technically it's a Collins, but what I've given you here is simply a template, right? So it's going to be base spirit, a little bit of citrus, and a little bit of some sort of sweetener, and then topped with soda at the end. But we're going to shake this one up. I'm using a little local honey that I've diluted a little bit so that it's easier to mix with. And also there are these great cereal notes. So now we're moving into the Mizuho, which is a little more, it's done atmospheric style. It's going to be a little richer in style, and it has more cereal notes to it. So the honey will really play well with those cereal notes as we're going on. And then I have some fresh lemon juice. So I'm doing a 1/2 ounce of the honey syrup and a 1/2 ounce of lemon juice. And I'm going to go 2 ounces of the awamori. And I apologize in advance if the shaking noises are obnoxious. I'm going to shake it up really quick. And then this ice, I'm very excited about the column ice. Oop. Okay, again, these songs are. So.
I think the shaking noise is the it's the most crucial part of a bartending experience.
And I feel like it's Pavlovian when you hear that shaker tin go, everyone starts to like salivate and they're like, yes, it's cocktail time. So we're gonna do a shake here. We're trying to liven up the citrus. We're trying to get it cold. We're not gonna go for too terribly long because it's not necessary. Can you see? It's hard to see the like, it's a nice little foaminess happening. So I've got my gorgeous column ice in my Collins glass. Thanks again for that, you guys. I'm gonna strain it. And then I'm topping it with this really cool sparkling Amaro Soda that's coming from Detroit. These are non-alcoholic, really dry sodas that have things like Italian lemon and Kinoto in them. So kind of, again, going along with that whole idea of like European meets Southern Japanese, like cultures of like drinking and eating. We're gonna top this off, but again, you can really use whatever you would like. It could be a grapefruit soda, but this has some nice like herbal notes to it. All right, and then I'm just gonna put a nice little lemon wheel in there, just to give it, it's my Awamori sunrise garnish.
We love it.
Yeah, a little sunshine for you all. And so I paired this with, and this actually comes directly from my boss's Chef Hugh Atchison's cookbook, A New Turn in the South. And it's a boiled peanut hummus that I made. Let's see if I can tilt it a little bit. It's so hard with this. Sorry guys. So city living, trying to set up like tables and everything with the computers in there. But yeah, there we go. So, I wanted to come up with something, or I wanted to feature something that's meaty, but vegetarian. So it has a lot of those like umami and kind of like fatty characteristics the boiled peanuts do, but it's vegetarian. So it's a little like inclusive in this sense, but it's really satisfying. And it plays really well with that, more full-bodied awamori that you find in the Mizuho, because of it being atmospheric and having more of those cereal notes. And then along with the kind of bitter characteristics and herbal characteristics in the soda and the honey, it all just is, it's a little more powerful and it's a little more kind of bold, and it goes really well with like a dish that has a little more fat to it, and a little more umami character to it. But again, I just wanted to do something vegetarian and show people that it doesn't always have to be that you're doing it with meat or with a charcuterie board, that there's ways to do vegetarian dishes that are also like really meaty and umami driven, and that pair really well with these kinds of cocktails that are a little more bold and a little more like powerful.
Yeah, for sure. I also find it interesting you use the Mizuho with this recipe. A lot of people tend to like using the lighter Hanashimauta with something similar to this. So I like that kind of mix up there. It gives it a kind of different flavor, keeps it interesting. And I love this whole theme of kind of entertaining and having these like little plates that people can pick at.
I think that one of the things that bartenders are really blessed with is that we're able to communicate these rich heritages and traditions through cocktails to people, and through like feeding people, entertaining people, making cocktails with these spirits that are so special, that have such a rich storied history. And we get to we can communicate these stories through the medium of cocktails and through the medium of entertaining and hosting people. And that's really exciting to me. And so any way that we can be inclusive and find ways to really pull people into our world, and then therefore this world that exists in Japan via this style of entertaining, is always really exciting and special to me. And I feel like always very honored that that's what we get to do in this profession of ours.
Sounds amazing. I totally agree. Because, Mutual Trading Company's mission statement is basically bringing the flavors of Japan to the world. So
Yeah,
our
it's
beliefs
a fun job.
definitely
It's your
is.
mantra. Amazing.
And Mark says you have an awesome shake. I agree. Solid,
All
good
right.
shake.
Shall we move on to the final?
Yeah, absolutely. Ueno-san, did you want
You
to pull
guys
up
are
that?
freezing up on me.
Ueno-san's gonna show us the third pairing here.
Awesome.
All right, so Kelly has prepared for us dates stuffed with cashew cheddar and drizzled with pomegranate molasses with the Sakura Yamakawa.
Yeah, so the Yamakawa is so cool, right? Because it's a kusu, which is very special. I was honored to receive this amazing clay aging vessel from Japan. And clay is often what these spirits are aged in. It's really beautiful. If you can kind of see, it's handmade and gorgeous. And while these spirits are aging, they start to develop just like any spirit that ages. But in this case, you're not getting kind of the oak influence that you think of when you're thinking of aged spirits. That doesn't mean that spirits that aren't aged in oak don't also really develop and grow over time. They're going through esterification. There's all of these interactions that are taking place in these aging vessels without oak interaction. And so you're developing a lot of new compounds in these spirits. And a lot of them are like very nutty and vanillin and caramel, which is really fun to pair with something like dates. Because dates, especially medjool dates, tend to have this really like almost chocolatey and caramel character to them. I'm a big fan, or I used to be a big fan of cheese plates at the end of my meal. And I recently, over the past year, found out that Derry and I are not the best of friends. So I wanted to kind of figure out a way that I could still have my cheese plate, if you will. And I have found this really cool, like aged cashew cheddar. And it's really nice. It's got a lot of power and strength to it. And it has a lot of like weight and fat character to it. It's really nice stuffed in the dates, but you could also do this with like a manchego or a sharp cheddar. It doesn't have to be cashew cheddar. And then just the nice little drizzle of like the deep pomegranate molasses gives it just a pop of acid and a little like fruit depth there. Now, I didn't do this beforehand, so forgive me. The thing about kusu is that you don't typically mix it. It's a really special spirit. This is something that you would drink neat at the end of a meal, special occasions. And you're typically drinking them in a really small, little, adorable vessel. But if you don't have that little, yes, Ida, exactly. Yes. I have other small, adorable vessels that you could drink it in. I think it's just that it needs to be little. But it is really nice if you are ever fortunate enough to have this essentially kind of a decanter and the small little cups to go with it. And the idea is to kind of pour along, and you get these beautiful little bubbles and aeration that go with it. And it's also in a clay vessel, so there's going to be some evaporation that's taking place that's really nice, but it's meant to be sat and sipped on and little nibbles of your dates and cashew cheese, and then going back to beautiful little sips of this kusu.
I want to taste that. I want to taste it, that one. You have to tell me how to do the hummus. So you boil the peanut. I want to go back a little bit. Sorry about that. I should.
It's okay.
Dates too, but one by one. So boil the peanuts. You boil the peanuts and you put in a mixer, blender, and
that's right.
You add anything?
Tahini. It is a hummus like you would make with chickpeas, with like tahini and lemon juice and garlic, but you just do it with boiled peanuts instead of chickpeas. And in Georgia, we have access to green peanuts, and so it takes a long time. It takes several hours of boiling the peanuts and in seasoned water. So it's a labor of love. It's something that takes a while to do, but you essentially boil those for a few hours, and then after you drain them off and take them out of their shells, then you would blend them with like tahini and lemon juice in the same way that you would make hummus from there. So it's actually fairly simple, and there's not a lot of ingredients. It's really the peanut part that takes you the most time.
Wow, I want to try that. And next one, dates. How do you cook them? How did you
well, the dates, I just bought the Mizuho dates. So this is another one where it looks like I put more work into it than I actually did. I just bought the Mizuho dates and then cut them open, took their pits out and stuffed them with the cashew cheese and then drizzled pomegranate molasses over it. So it's just a nice presentation, but it took me really no time at all. And I sipped a cocktail while doing it.
Thank you, Kellie. Kellie, and also that the molasses, pomegranate molasses, what kind of taste is that gonna be? I have never tasted it before.
Well, so pomegranate molasses is essentially like a heavy concentration of pomegranate juice. So it's tart, but then it has kind of like this, it's a very, very deep, almost like a dried fruit characteristic, but there's this great like tart pop to it. So you don't need much at all, very small amounts. And you can usually find them in like anywhere that specializes in like Israeli food or Greek food. It's a very like Middle Eastern ingredient.
I didn't know. I should try that too.
I'm just over here introducing you to the new flavors.
I know, right? Yeah. That's great. That's a thing, you know. That's the reason why we do this. Otherwise, we are stuck with the Japanese food and that's it.
I mean, I don't think you have it so bad if that's the case, by the way, but.
All right. And so you visited Okinawa. What was your impression of Okinawa?
Well, you know, so I live in Atlanta now, and I've been in Atlanta for a long time. It's essentially my home at this point, but I was actually raised in coastal cities. Oh. And I, you know, a lot of it I felt really comfortable in at home. It was a very coastal vibe. Like people are very welcoming there. It's very warm and friendly. And then it's just beautiful. And there's so much, you know, you talked about it earlier with like karate and their the dances, and it's such a unique place, and there's so much like history and culture that's specific to this one place. And I mean, I loved it. Obviously, I loved it. I'm over here fangirling about it.
Great. And what do you think about that? You know, lately there are lots of you know, light alcohol cocktail. What do you see that in the future?
I mean, honestly, I think that it's been there for a long time, but not necessarily in the front. So I think there's a lot of bartenders who have really loved and a lot of cultures who have really loved that style of cocktail and drinking, and that now that people are being more thoughtful and mindful in general about consumption, that we're just going to continue to see that it doesn't always have to be completely abstaining, and if that's what you want to do, that's totally fine. But there's also this balance of finding some lower alcohol options. Personally, I live in a city where everyone drives, right? So Atlanta's had a low ABV kind of undercurrent and culture in the bartenders for a really long time. There's always been, you know, kind of sherry-based cocktails and vermouth-based cocktails on a lot of our menus, because we felt like it was what we needed to have to balance out for people who had to drive. And also because we are in a city where, you know, sometimes you start earlier in the day, you go longer into the evening, to not get completely tanked on your first couple of cocktails and to be able to have a few is really nice. So, you know, personally, I mean, long live like lower ABV drinking. I hope it's here for a long time, but I do think it's going to continue to grow.
Okay. I know you're busy. You just came back from Florida. What was the different cocktail, or what different from Atlanta to Florida cocktail, you know, I know you worked on the cocktails and all the bars and in Florida for many, it's about more than one month. I think you were there. And what's your recommendation to them was totally different from Atlanta. What was the difference?
I mean, they're beach drinking down there. They're all on vacation. It's like frozen drinks, and you know, it's a lot of like tropical influenced cocktails, because I was there for nearly 2 months, but it's essentially it's a resort, and it was a 3-outlet hotel in a resort. So people are coming there to like kick their shoes off and drink pina coladas and, you know, spritzes. I mean, the cool thing is that we have this pool bar on the roof there, and we've got this like a kind of a variety of wine spritzers. So they are low ABV, but they're like very flavorful wine spritzers, and those people have been really gravitating to those. So we still get to do some, I think when you think like tropical drinks and beach drinks, you don't always think low ABV, you think like lots of rum blends and stuff. So we wanted to bring something of what we do in Atlanta and what we do everywhere else to Florida when we were doing this. And so we do have these really beautiful kind of wine spritzers that people are really gravitating to. So that's really cool to see. And I, you know, hope to continue being able to grow like lower ABV in that area too. But we definitely have to contend with the fact that people are there to really let loose and get down on some pina coladas and stuff, which is great too. Maybe we can make some Awamori pina coladas. That could be cool.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So relating to Awamori, my last question is for your next cocktail adventure with Awamori, what do you think you're going to be making, or what do you want to make with Awamori?
For my next cocktail with Awamori?
Well,
wow. I mean, it's funny because even working on all of this, there's such a, you know, you pull up that flavor wheel and there's such an array and a myriad of flavors that you can kind of play with and like pick apart. I was like, oh, I really want to do like a cantaloupe vermouth split base with a lighter Awamori, like the beautiful one that I started off with. But I also want to do a coconut water, ranch water with it, and do like a long sparkling one. So I mean, it just depends on what I'm trying to get out of it at the end, or what place it has on my menu. But the great thing about Awamori is that it's such a versatile spirit, depending on which producer you're using and what kind you're using, that you could do literally anything with it, from something savory to something bright and pretty and floral, you know. So stay tuned is the answer. Stay tuned.
Thank you, Kellie.
Thank you guys so much.
Q&A?
I have a couple comments. So
Okay.
Catherine says, these are great pairings. Thank you so much. Peanuts in Georgia are amazing, and she loves cashew cheese.
Yes.
Nick has this really interesting workaround for if you can't find pomegranate molasses, then try pouring, is it Pama, into a pan with equal parts sugar, and then reduce until it's thick like molasses. But I think it'll be a little bit different, but it's a good workaround.
It'll be a little different, but it could be a good workaround for sure. Way to go, Nick. Thanks, buddy. Coming in with the assist.
And have you ever tried to do a flip with Awamori?
Ooh, I love flips, and now that is going to be what I'm doing this weekend. Thank you so much. I have not yet, but I think something like the Mizuho would be really cool with that, because that's those like bolder notes, and but then riffing on like a pisco sour with Hanashimauta would be really nice, because you could just use the egg white and do something like lighter and a little frothier in that regard. And then I would do a flip with Mizuho if I did that. So
very nice.
Little maple.
And how are you finding the ice that we got sent to you?
I'm finding it amazing, and I'm really spoiled by it now, and I'm gonna have to reach out to you about your ice guy. So
So just so everybody knows, she's using Kuramoto ice. It's shipped in from Japan. It's very, very clear ice. And I believe if you have a Nijiya that's not in Hawaii, all the other Nijiya should be carrying them. I think they might even be on sale right now, but yeah. So we do have a question from Wendy. Is distillation method labeled on the bottles? And part 2 of that question is, any tips on reading or deciphering awamori labels?
Well, they don't always list distillation on the bottles. A lot of times when you're tasting different awamori, I will tell you that if you find that you're getting very delicate aromas and flavors, then you can usually bet that you're getting something that's vacuum distilled. There are a lot of, you can Google a lot of these to get some ideas, but there's not always that information ready for you. Now, when it comes to reading the labels, I'm going to turn to the 2 pros over here who do probably more work with figuring that out than I do.
It's going to be so hard, but and also Kelly is really correct on that flavor profile. That's the only way you can tell if it's vacuum or this, unless you know the maker and you can ask them. And also, there is a mixed one too. You can mix distill, atmospheric distillation and also vacuum mixed together and become a one product. That's going to be really tough to tell. And only for that, there's 2 characters shows you can see, and I will try to clip that while we are having a quiz, and I will show that Awamori character, 2 Chinese character at the end of this session. Okay, I'll try to clip it and show you.
I do use a when I'm traveling, because a lot of times imported awamori will have English as well as Japanese on the label. When I'm traveling, or when somebody is lovely enough to send me a bottle from abroad, I use a translator on my phone that when I hold it up, it translates it to English for me. Sometimes it's a strange, there are some things that don't translate completely, but a lot of it does. So I recommend getting that app. It's great.
Nick also says use Google Translate, and I absolutely agree. Google Translate is your friend.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, if you look at the back label, it usually always has awamori at the back of the label, explaining what kind of the distilled Japanese spirit it is. So some of them say shochu, some of them say soju. If it's awamori, it's gonna say awamori. Okay.
Also, kind of a different hack is to make a Japanese friend and make sure they can read Japanese. Problem solved. All right.
Good one,
so
Ida.
I think that's about it for any questions. Also, Nick Korn, our very first Awamori Sunrise guest, says that you are his hero, by the way. And mutual feelings. And all right, okay, Ueno-san, I know you have a couple announcements for us. Yes. So I think Sake is a great place to buy sake and shochu, and we did have a discount code for them, but that was for the month of February, so I think that might have been expired now. But it shouldn't stop you guys from going there and finding the awamori that we presented today, besides the Sakura Yamakawa, which is notoriously difficult to get both in the US and in Japan. Sorry, he's muted.
Sorry about that. This is our next webinar having on 11th of this month, Nongucci Sake Brewery Tour. As you can see, Nongucci Toji is, some people call him sake god. He's a living legend, 87 years old, started this sake brewery in Ishikawa, and we're gonna have that webinar. And that's it for this time. I'm actually, you know, you know, the discount code was JCS15. JCS15 was a discount code for Sake if you want to purchase one of those Awamori we presented today. And I thank you for Naoto Yoneza for donating the ice from a gram of ice, and thank you very much. And we're gonna have a quiz after this.
Yes, we are going to have the quiz. And Catherine says the times are backwards on the slide. Actually, I think it will be at 5 p.m. PT, but that Eastern time was probably incorrect. So 5 p.m. Pacific time, meaning 8 p.m. Eastern time. I will put the follow-up information for how to register for that brewery tour or the webinar in the email that will be going out tomorrow. And we'll also have Kellie's food pairings as well as the recipes posted on our website tomorrow as well. So we will put all that good stuff and link it for you guys in the follow-up email. And before we start that quiz, Mark says he's drinking Awamori soju. He knows that they do it to slip it in under the ABV limit. That's correct. Soju is legally has to be labeled soju when it's 24% ABV or under. And if it's 25% or higher, it will be called shochu. And I think that's in certain states, but always check. And Sarasa Suzuki says, thank you guys. That was really amazing. And that she's going to bring the labeling terms and information comments to Awamori producers. So perfect. Thank you for taking action on that.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, so let's go ahead and launch this. You guys have 2 minutes to answer these 3 questions. All right. And as everybody puts in their answers, so to win the Shochu Advisor course, you have to get all 3 questions correct. And if there's more than one person who gets all 3 questions correct, we will do a random drawing, and that one person will have the Shochu Advisor course. And you know, the last time we did a Shochu kind of multiple events, we did Shochu Rocks, and Ueno-san would play rock music to kind of distract people. But this time we're just shooting the breeze. Oh, you know, you mentioned low ABV cocktails, and I absolutely agree, because I went to brunch last weekend and I had one cocktail and I had to go home for a nap like immediately.
Yeah,
It knocked me out.
It just does you in for the day.
Yes. And I can definitely sympathize or empathize with the whole dairy thing. A lot of Asians can't actually handle dairy very well. So we're in that same boat, but you know what?
So you're gonna have cashew cheese with me?
I will try it. I've never tried it. I'm very interested.
It's really good. I'll tell you, you know, this is actually a Japanese chef who designed these cheeses. So she, her name I think is Miyoso, and Chef Miyoso, and she has these like really awesome dairy-free. She has like a butter that's made from oats, and then 2 cheeses that are made from cashew that I love. But all of her products, so because I think she's a chef, they don't have like weird, I don't know, they're very good. They don't necessarily taste like the thing like dairy, but they just have, but they're really well made, and they don't have like weird fake flavors to them.
Yes, I've noticed that's usually an issue when you have to go non-dairy for dairy products.
Right.
Yeah, I used to be okay with a dairy product when I was young, and lately every time I have, you know, coffee with real milk, I have a problem. You know, I think I'm getting a little old, maybe, or
No.
I need a little bit more enzyme that activity in my
Yeah, it could be.
yeah.
Could
But
be.
anyway,
All right.
But there's great
so
alternatives for you now.
There absolutely are. And okay, so I've closed the poll, and really quickly before we say our goodbyes, let's go over the answers. So first question, what is the Okinawan term for aged awamori? And the answer is kusu. All right, 80% of you guys got that correct. And what is the unique awamori aging process called? It is called shitsugi. And last question, where did the awamori production technique most likely come from? What is the answer, Ueno-san?
Thailand.
Very good. We always got to check the pros, right? All right, so very good. Yeah, you guys did extremely well on this, and we will be sharing the winner in the follow-up email, so please be sure to keep an eye out for that tomorrow. And that's it. Thank you. Oh yeah.
Here is two character you have to know. This is awa mori. Awa means bubble, as that Kelly-san shows, and mori is full of it, or that's what it means. It means lots of bubble. Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
So like when Kelly was pouring from that little small decanter into the tiny cups, she pulled it far up away so that it would create more bubbles as it poured out at the end. If that makes any sense. I'm tired at this point, but I need some.
That's right though. It creates little bubbles as it's going through, and more bubbles the better. So the longer the pour, the more bubbles. All more.
Yes. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Hopefully we'll see you at our next event, the Nongucci Naohiko Sake Institute Brewery Tour. And yeah, Kelly, did you have any final words for us?
Just thank you so much for having me. This was a blast. I had so much fun, and I look forward to hanging out with all you guys again. And go forth and drink more awamori and make cocktails with it.
Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, Kelly, so much for that. And I appreciate the you, and I appreciate all the people who participate this event. And we'll see Kelly in the future, and we'll see some of your audience in our next session. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye.